We just went through the class and we just got an architect design to landscape designer give us a quote.
That's why they want to
So
know.
we'll do the landscape design and then go from there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I would say nothing against JB, but in the future, we should have Heidi do landscape presentation.
Did you send?
But I'll tell you what, it's,
I did super excited about
I
that.
know,
Half-
so awesome.
the issue is that one section that you guys, that's city owned. And I don't think we have an agreement on maintenance and landscape.
Those were so good.
No,
We
not
made
you
them.
guys.
You said
I'm
it brought
on
up
I
you.
know, that's Mayor. Cause I'm like, I've
kids
been
love
watering
it.
and mowing your grass
Those
for
are great.
a decade now,
Kids love perfect.
but.
Hey Sherry, you're hired permanently, by the way.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
fantastic.
I forgot I'm still the mayor pro tem.
He's out of, he's out.
8 o'clock's the bar now, Lauren.
Yeah. Alright, we're good. You can hear us, right, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we have done with something,
No, it's
or
closed.
no, we're good?
Yeah,
We are
we're good.
close.
So, I'm not looking for any advice here, staff's not looking for any advice, it's more of just an update on potential litigation, so. I think Larry's growing increasingly impatient with our progress on the Alamo, and that's fine, right? We're going through the process. If you recall, last time I spoke with the council about this, that was my legal advice, was to go through the process, right? He's got these applications in. Your conversation tonight was exactly what it needed to be, saying, hey, we've got the process, we can go through it this way, or we can go through it this way. Let's talk about it. I thought it was excellent, the way it turned out. And so the reason for this meeting is just to say, continue down that path of just going through the process. As I advised you last time, that does not mean that you have to approve anything, right? Larry does not have us over a barrel or a gun to our heads where we have to approve everything that he's asking for. However, we do have to go through the process, and like I articulated last time, if it does end in a denial, we've gone through the process sufficiently that we can state on the record the reasons why we are going to deny or approve, if that's the end result. That, in connection with that, some additional advice is, if Larry reaches out to you at this point, I would advise you just to say, hey, why don't you bring that up in the working group? Why don't you bring that to the council? I think we're to a point now, and again, given his frustration, these conversations with him should be happening in a group setting.
Sure.
And no longer one-on-one. And I know most of you who have adopted that policy and practice in your own lives, just to say, hey, I'm not gonna meet one-on-one with developers. But again, my advice, given the circumstances, is just to exercise caution when or if he reaches out individually, so.
Here's my,
Cause if it goes wrong for him, I mean, this is just part of business,
Yeah.
especially with land deals. Litigation is just part of it. Like, if it goes wrong for him, he will sue it.
Yeah, I
It's just part of the process.
I had a meeting with him yesterday afternoon, Chase was a part of that. He absolutely declared his intent to file suit against the city if we don't approve his.
And knowing that that's the
other
case,
stuff.
then we just have to be careful with what we say and how we say it.
the nice thing is we have something in common because he's frustrated with the progress on the auto Oh my.
Right. And so, again, I'm not trying to solicit advice or elicit advice or anything, just a word of caution from your attorney about how to proceed and continue proceeding. And like I said, I think you guys have done excellent up to this point. I don't have any concerns. I just wanna hone in a little bit more, given the kind of tense nature of the negotiations to this point.
Can I'll ask for your take on this. Is it appropriate in this context to update the content of that conversation yesterday? Some of the details of that?
Because it's potential litigation.
He threatened litigation.
He did.
Can I,
I'll defer to you if you think there's value in updating the other members
I think
of
there's
council.
pieces of it.
Sure.
So, at part of that conversation, Larry expressed that his position is that some of the actions he took, the positions he took, the investments he made, the potential risk that he took on was in a good faith, quote unquote, partnership with the city. That representatives of the city at one time or another had encouraged him to take certain actions that he otherwise may not have taken. I think that's fair is how he expressed it. And that those promises or those deals worked out are now not being
I'd like to
fulfilled.
know what those deals are.
Yeah, exactly, well, yeah,
Go ahead.
Are those documented contractual deals?
That's
No,
news,
no,
that's
none
news
of
to
it
me.
is,
If
right.
there's
It's-
such a thing, then
it's
let
not,
us know.
right, but I think that it's fair to say, and this is the part that I think is important, and is potential why his litigation would come, is that he has no options available to him to continue the auto mall as an investment and as an active role for him, unless he has some opportunity associated with this to have a revenue generating action,
The residential.
residential piece and or an alternative commercial
That-
use for
That
parts of
has
the auto mall.
nothing to do with us, nothing.
It really doesn't.
And if I could just jump in here, one of the things we talked about is going through the process is getting that out of him, right? If it is about revenue generation for you, but going back a step from there, what is it about you needing the residential that is so important to this project? And
That's the
going,
thing is, I mean,
asking the
way it's
questions
listed
that
on
elicit
there,
those
how is this
responses.
related to the auto mall? If you wanna use soil to fulfill, you don't need a rezone for that.
The other important thing too is it's important for us to understand that our responsibility is to do what's best for the city.
that is correct.
And so when we look at this, we cannot be jaded by the idea we have to help this guy because it's gonna help him make money.
That's-
Our responsibility is simply to make decisions that are in the best interest of our city's future.
And I explained it to him almost exactly word for word.
And I mean, the record's pretty clear on how far we've gone to try to help him, to try to facilitate, to play banker, to real estate
Yeah.
agent, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I mean, we've done more than maybe we should have to help.
Facilitate that.
But
Yeah,
it's not up to us to make sure that he can pay his bills.
Agreed.
That's not our.
And I just want to suggest that and I wanna keep this in context to what's appropriate for this meeting, is that his reason for litigation will be, he will be getting foreclosed on his portions of the property.
That's why I said it's part of the process.
Probably with, I think he indicated 90 days or so,
I don't recall the time.
20 days,
Oh,
like
he-
in short order is what,
He indicated
took away from
short
the
order,
meeting.
but, yeah.
I don't remember a time frame.
or maybe he will be in the default and starting that
So-
process here.
so
in a
if I
little
go
bit. So
to-
foreclosing on raw land sucks if you're a bank.
My constituents and say, are you okay if I use your tax money to bail this guy out because he made bad business decisions? Like that's what he'd be asking us. That's not a basis for a lawsuit.
Yeah, and the important
Good
thing
luck.
to remember always when you're making deals is you better have them contractually on paper and they better be signed, because if not, then they're just,
Right.
you have a very difficult time proving verbal contracts.
So I don't wanna dive into the details, cause I think we could talk about
Sure.
this for a long
Yeah.
time, and, I mean, truthfully, this is a record that could potentially be subpoenaed
Yeah.
as part of a lawsuit, so I don't wanna get too much into the weeds.
Sure.
Again, I just wanted to share some legal advice with you that continue going through the process, ask questions, participate as much as we can,
I
and
mean,
I
we
think,
we want the auto mall
We
to
do.
happen as we
Right.
discussed.
So bad.
But as we just mentioned in the general meeting, as far as I know, there's no overarching plan. The only thing that it's in place is purchase agreements on pieces of land. That's it. And now we're being asked to do other things to help facilitate that's not been agreed to.
and I think the discussion you guys had tonight during the regular meeting will help elicit all of that, will help
So,
clear the air that, listen, if these are all tied, we need to figure out how they are, so.
And
I-
that's why
again,
I think it really depends on him. If he's applying for it, does he wanna, if he has an issue where he has to bring them in individually, then we will go through that process and assess them individually. But the question is gonna be, how in the world does this affect the auto mall, right? I mean, that's what we have to go down. If it's part of a plan, we really should have a master plan. This is what the end goal is, and this is how we get there. And all the parties agree to it.
And to be fair, there's a zoning approved, it's ready to go, he could start building an auto mall tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like he'd get his applications in and start building, so there's nothing, that's an obstacle to him developing the auto mall.
Yeah, and there's already development moving forward with the commercial piece of it too,
Right.
so there's already that in motion, so.
Okay, well, thanks for entertaining my legal advice again. I just felt like it was important, given the
It is
circumstances to.
That's good.
And to be frank, these just came from some recent conversations that we've had with Larry and council members, and so I thought, I'm gonna bring this to the full council, so I appreciate your attention on that.
Awesome.
That's all. I was
Well-
quick. I tried to make it quick. You guys just kept.
Yeah,
Mayor
right.
Palmer mentioned to me that the SLR deadline is March. We're still working
No
on
one was
that.
the trend,
The-
April.
So the meetings, there were a bunch of meetings, I believe it's April.
The approval
was
was in
actually
April.
approved. We have a meeting with Matt this week. I got
Okay.
COVID last week, so.
Oh, perfect.
And-
Thank
Make
you.
sure we stay
Yeah.
on track with that.
Yeah, we're on top of
Him
that one.
first, then me. But we're meeting Friday. We'll talk about it. We're actually doing a title report for that property very specifically, because I want to understand the transactions that we were told, oh, wow, this has had a lot of stuff happen on it since 2004. Lots of movements back and forth.
Yeah.
And so our approval there was in 2000, what was in front of council at 08, I think 09, early 09 is when it was approved as an MDA. So we're working on all that to make sure we know where we stand and where we go with that MDA.
On
Good.
the Creek Ridge part, the reduction of units.
Cause
That's
my,
the most,
yeah,
Well, we have,
And the
so we have two pieces. We have
Grading.
this part going, the Creek Ridge piece. I've watched that video. I think Chase has watched it. We're gonna be really strong, I think, on that 270 units come out and that 150 come out of Area A. The real rub will be, I don't know what we have to make it the apartments, other than we made a motion that way. But whatever had been presented, it's gonna be, that's a tougher fight, I think, actually, to make sure it's apartments.
which, sign it.
the other
Right?
thing too is the
And
grading
they're just-
agreement.
they're just-
My concern is if we discover things on the MDA that make it to where it couldn't be MU and then the grading stops.
So you're going back to
Well,
pot
it's different.
42.
Well, because it was all tied together in that meeting,
The grading
Some of
of
this
that
stuff
and
has
that's-
already been-
That's part of it
taken care of, right? They're doing the grading.
for now.
Um,
I'm just worried that it would
Because
stop.
because they think
Because they
that
think it's getting
they can do
sold.
residential in South Edge.
Yeah.
So,
That's my only concern, is if then they find out it's not, is the grading gonna stop?
And again, that's part of this discussion with Matt on
Perfect.
Friday.
we need to understand what their
Yeah.
expectation, what
Yeah.
they think is happening there. For all we know, Steve Maddox is getting into commercial development, right?
Yeah,
Maybe he's diversifying, we don't know.
great.
Happy to have our retail recruiter help him and
Yeah.
put some good stuff there.
sorry to toggle back to Creek Ridge if that's okay,
Sorry.
that deadline.
It's.
So, and again-
Because to me, at this point, for that area, the only levers we have to pull is either agree to sign the agreement as was agreed to, or we need to file suit by whatever deadline it is. Is that March, April?
It's
That-
probably not a 2-year deadline. Attorneys give a 2-year deadline to say, your shortest statute of limitations is 2 years. Most are 3, some are 4.
Well, let's find
This
out
would
for
be
sure.
contraction, well, and that, to Nathan's point, we might have a hard time, and so we're gonna have to craft some creative claims that are likely in that 3 to 4 year statute of limitation range.
Right, so then the second part is, okay, well, that needs to be, look, here's kind of where we're going if we can't come to an agreement, but we need to have something, a line drawn. And then it's, let's talk about it, because if we can't get there and we go to that point, then stop issuing building permits over there until this is resolved. Because those units have to be reduced.
And to Nathan's point, that's all part of this conversation, right? We're obviously going to push, as we were directed to last time, to say, listen, you guys have received the benefit of this transaction.
Yeah.
And the agreement was it would be 150 apartment units. And that's obviously what we're going to push for, right? And so we're going to go in, we're gonna have that conversation, try to be cordial.
Yeah.
Be with strength
Firm.
though, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
And he's a new player, Matt. We
Right.
don't know what he knows. I mean, we can show the video where Steve Maddox stands up, oh, I'm representing SLR on this, and when we say, is that a problem? He says, no, it's not. Then to hear, well, no, it was a problem. If we could have spoken, we would have said something, but we didn't get, as far as
Zero
we can
follow-up,
find,
yeah.
we have no follow, we don't have even an email the next day saying, hey, wait a second, this isn't gonna work.
We don't have an email
There's nothing.
ever
Yeah.
from them saying that they're not going to sign it or that's a problem.
And I'm not
Do
sure
we?
who
There-
heard from it, but
there
their
was a
representative
few
finally said,
months
yeah,
But
we're not
formal
There's a record.
communication from them, like in short period after that?
It was in
Nothing.
June, I believe, that
There was an email that I was sending back and forth with Gordon and Bryn at the time saying, hey, where's this agreement at? And everyone's like, oh, we're kinda getting worried, we haven't seen it, we took it over there and we haven't gotten it back yet. And that was our first like.
We haven't gotten
hey,
anything
is something
from
up?
them.
And it was after the fact, it was after we'd already approved everything else, right?
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
was
way
way after
after.
that.
But there's no communication from them saying, we're not okay with that.
And we never did get any communication after
To,
that.
to me, that's a key piece that we need to point out, Matt, if this was an issue, why wasn't there an immediate response back saying, hey, waiting 6 months later and saying, oh yeah, you know, we disagreed with that. That, because we had other meetings after the fact when we were meeting, that they could have brought that up and said, hey, this is not fair. This is not what we agreed to. So I think we have, the challenge is, the stuff that was put forward just said 150 units. It was only the motion that says apartments. And then,
And I believe we tried to do it in thirds, right? Equal part from area B,
Yes.
and then the remaining 150, I think. The actual motion was 75 from the townhouses, 75 from the
No, it
apartments.
was hundred and
Was
fifty
it?
apartments.
it's 150 and then
Spread-
it's very, we watched the
270
spread
videos.
it out.
I thought, so it was 270 out.
270, but 283, cause they threw 13 into the
That's
area
right.
they'd already
Yeah,
developed.
he's
So it
like,
turned
we'll
out
throw the
that
extra
they
13
can't-
in.
That they
Build.
couldn't build anyway.
They can't build anything.
And they
Super
upheld
generous.
the first part, area B got reduced by more, I think, than what they said, or right about what they said, so. They've upheld it so far, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
Well, we knew they would on that piece because they couldn't fit them in.
I think that's the
One-
issue with that.
One of the
is-
first discussions when they came in on that piece was, single family means townhomes, right? No, and they brought out building code, because building code, a townhome
Yeah.
is a single family unit. So they were trying to put those in the beginning.
So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, man.
We meet Friday, so we'll be able to.
That'll be
report
my
on it.
standing question every meeting.
Nice.
thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, are we done?
Well, I guess we can make motions and
Okay,
then
so
cut you loose.
can I have a motion to move out of close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to
Aye.
adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, wait, we have to up it
Oh,
open.
wait.
Sherry, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, motion to adjourn.
Second one.
Second. Aye, all in favor?
Get out of here.
Did you get all that?
Jack.
guys?
See what time it is?
This, I think truly is.
Told her
Did
8:30.
they
Oh, no.
That's when we're gonna be done. I said we should be done by 8:30.
Jeez, look at you.
But like I said, I'm not gonna let Chase be part of the pool anymore, cause he could have
You could have derailed it.
kept us going.
I told my kids today, they're like, see you tomorrow, and I said, no, we have a new city manager,
there it
we got earlier now.
See you tomorrow.
It's just sensitive.
We've had, what's the
I'm not
last,
good
we
at
had one that was
gadgets.
11 not too long ago, that one's,
Yeah.
or
The
10.
first
One that went past